You were born by a cold Norwegian fjord in the late 9th century, where the sea feeds you, and where it also takes you. Your first world is a longhouse of timber and turf, a low roof, a hearth in the middle, and smoke that never fully leaves, because warmth matters more than clean air. In houses like this, people and livestock are often kept under the same roof, not out of affection for the smell, but because of the cold. In your earliest years, you're treated less like the future and more like a chance. A name and a settled place in the family can come later, because winter decides faster than promises do. You grow up feeling the year as a hard circle of survival. In summer, you must get everything done: catch, cut, repair, store, dry. In autumn, you must finish it: smoke fish, salt meat, stack grain, and dried herbs so they won't rot. In winter, you ration and mend, because a new axe does not appear out of air. You learn the price of firewood early. When there isn't enough, you don't wake from dreams. You wake from cold creeping under your blanket. You learn the price of hay early. If it is damp, the livestock loses strength by spring, and with the livestock, the whole household weakens. As a child, you are not raised on bravery. You are trained for usefulness. First it is water and wood. Then it is knots that don't betray you in wet hands, nets that must be repaired every day, and a plain kind of discipline. If it's done, you'll live. In winter, you see people moving over snow on skis or broad supports, because otherwise the work simply stops. There's no drama in it, only practicality. You quickly learn that in a community, it is not only hands that matter, but kin. Strength helps in a brawl, but in a dispute, the one who helps you most is the one who can stand beside you and vouch for you. Children are often raised in another household. Fosterage binds families tighter than fine words. Honor sounds less like emotion and more like an account. It can be lost, it can be restored, and people pay for it with years. You hear about belief not as sermons, but as habits. An amulet on the neck, carved signs, short vows before the sea. Thor's hammer is worn as something simple. Let it hold. People make offerings in the right season, asking for luck in the catch, health for children, a steady wind. It isn't a fairy tale. It is how you live next to things you cannot control. Storms, sickness, sudden death on rocks. Inside the longhouse, daily life presses on the body, crowding constant damp, wool that is dried and mended again and again. Light often comes from fat or oil lamps, not bright, but enough to see your hands. Smoke clings to wood and clothing, and sometimes it helps dry what would otherwise rot. You fall asleep on platforms and benches, listening to the house breathe with the wind, and you understand that comfort here means a roof holds and your family has something to warm itself with. Food is not pleasure, it is a plan. The base is barley porridge and dried fish, the kind that can keep for months. Dairy is valuable, and people try to preserve it in thick, sour forms. They drink weak ale and sour whey-based drinks, not because it is fun, but because water in barrels spoils quickly, while sour liquid keeps longer. In a good year, you eat fuller. In a bad year, you count the days to spring. Summer is not rest. It is a race. Fishing, haymaking, repairing boats, mending clothing, making tar and pitch. Tar matters to a ship the way dry boots matter to a person. Without it, seams begin to let water through. Iron does not fall from the sky either. It can be made from bog ore, smelted, forged, and that is why every metal tool is valued like a member of the household. You watch adults keep blades sharp, oiled, and protected from damp. As a teenager, you feel, for the first time, that reputation walks ahead of you. There are hard games and contests, wrestling, strength trials, and sometimes team games like Nat Liquor, where it is easy to split a lip or break a finger. What matters most is not victory, but how you hold yourself. Whether you whine, whether you lie, whether you abandon the task when it gets heavy. In your world, people grow up not by years, but by usefulness. One day you stand at the assembly where disputes are not settled by fists alone. There are men who carry the law in memory and recite it aloud, because law here is memory, not paperwork. Fines are counted in weight of silver, not in pretty coins. Oaths matter because kin stands behind them, and because tomorrow you must live among the same people. You hear about Vergil, the price paid for blood to stop revenge, and you see the other edge. If no compromise is found, conflict turns into a chain. Feud here is not epic. It is domestic and sticky. One blow demands an answer. The answer becomes a debt. The debt demands a new blow. The most frightening outcome is when a person is declared outside the law, an outlaw. He loses the community's protection, and almost anyone can do almost anything to him. You learn to fear not only steel, but how quickly social ties can collapse into emptiness. The older you get, the more clearly you are shown the wood and iron of violence. Weapons are not evenly distributed. A sword is expensive. People respect the spear, the axe, the knife, and above all, the shield. Horned helmets are not your reality. Your reality is plain protection, practical and dull, but just as surely. Training does not resemble an army parade ground. It resembles a habit of the body. You learn to hold the line beside others, to cover a neighbor with your shield, not to break formation when panic rises. You learn to row and to listen for rhythm. If men pull out of time, the ship loses speed and becomes a toy for the waves. At sea, discipline is not beauty. It is control. The ship becomes the center of your life. It is clinker built, overlapping planks that keep it light and flexible on the swell. It is repaired constantly. Seams are worked with pitch, boards are fitted, wood is checked for weak places. The sail is heavy wool cloth, and it takes an enormous amount of labor and wool to make. It is guarded like the most valuable thing aboard. You notice the steering oar on the right side and understand the sea leaves marks even on language. You begin to feel the ship through your feet, how it answers wind, how it changes under load, how quickly the crew tires. Navigation is not magic, it is caution. You read coastline currents, fog birds. Sometimes the sun and simple light-based tools help with direction, but more often experience does. Where the rock sits, where shallows hide, where a current pulls you toward reefs. An error here is not a loss. An error is silence after a shout, when a man can no longer be found in the grey water. At first, you go more often into trade because it brings metal and cloth with less risk. You sail to places where larger markets already exist, like Hedeby or Birka. Hear foreign tongues, trade furs, fish, butter, and learn that honesty here is measured by profit and fear. Agreements are reinforced by hostages and reputation. If you cheat once, doors stop opening. The world is stitched together by exchange, and you see that the sea is a road, not only a boundary. Silver in this system is not a symbol and not decoration. It is measure. It is broken into pieces and weighed on folding scales. Hacked silver. You can carry wealth on your own arm as a bracelet, ready to be snapped and weighed when needed. Among the silver you see foreign coins, even Arabic dirhams, and it isn't exotic. It is the trace of roots stretching farther than you could imagine as a child. With silver, you can buy iron, settle a debt, stop revenge. And that is why silver keeps pulling you back toward the sea. Then comes a voyage where the target is chosen not for price, but for vulnerability. You do not treat it as adventure. You treat it as work that leaves a mark. Places are often chosen for what can be taken quickly and carried. Metal, tools, cloth. Sometimes monasteries are struck. Not for mystery, but because they can hold concentrated, portable wealth that can be carried off and traded. It happens fast, dirty, and tight, with nerves. And you learn that the most dangerous thing is not loud words but chaos. What begins when people become afraid. Captives become part of the same reality. They can be exchanged, sold, taken away, forced to work. This is not a plot detail. It is a mechanism of the age that feeds households and markets. Sometimes a person ends up inside the household over time and lives as its dependent labor. Sometimes freedom is bought back, but most often there is simply no choice. You do not find beauty in it. You only see what the price of a human being looks like in a world that measures everything by use and force. Life on campaign strips you of fantasies quickly. On many ships, you live under open wind and spray. Clothing rarely dries, and fresh water is always at risk. Sleep is broken. Wounds rub against salt and cloth. Lice and grime become background. Arguments ignite easier because men are tired, and sickness can drop the strong faster than steel. Fever, infection from a cut, tooth pain that darkens your sight. What you call treatment is often rough. A wound is cleaned, herbs are pressed into it, sometimes yarrow is used, and cautery is applied to stop bleeding or rot. Rare finds even show harsh interventions where people tried to help by any means they had. More often it is simpler. If infection takes hold, you lose a man, and the ship moves on, because otherwise everyone dies. When you return home, plunder brings not only warmth and full bellies, but tension. People look at you longer. Some envy you. Some remember old debts because now you can pay. Silver on your arm is both respect and danger. You learn to display wealth in measured doses. Too much, and you become a target, not of a foreign shore, but of your own. This is where leadership shows itself. Men follow the one they believe will bring them back and will not cheat them in the division. Authority rests on fairness, gifts, and the ability to smother a dispute before it turns to blood. If trust disappears, the crew breaks apart. No one is obliged to stay. Your loyalty is a bargain renewed every time you divide loot and return alive. Then family enters your life. Marriage is an alliance of households, calculation and protection, not only feeling. There's a bride price, there's dowry, there are arrangements between kin, and yet a woman in the house is not a shadow. She holds the household, the keys, the stores, and in some cases can end the union if life becomes impossible. Children grow up around the same smells of smoke and pitch that once surrounded you, and you catch yourself repeating what you were taught. Not be a hero, but be useful and stay alive. With age, the sea begins paying you back. Your joints remember rowing. Your back remembers cold voyages. You still understand ships and men, but your body no longer forgives the old loads. You start valuing reliability over speed. The young laugh loudly and treat luck like a personal trait. You already know luck is thin ice. Elders in the community remain the ones who remember disputes, kinship, boundaries, and words spoken many years ago, and so people listen. Not out of respect for age, but out of need. And when your end comes, at sea, in a clash from sickness, or simply from time, it rarely looks like a legend. Ship burials exist, but they are for a few, the richest. More often it is simpler. A mound, earth, fire, objects placed beside you because it is the custom, and memory held by kin. To strangers you may become a beautiful story. To your own, you remain a person who kept the house standing, came back from the sea, paid debts, tore skin from his hands, accepted fear, and still did the work. In your world, that was life.